The haunted history of Washington State. Welcome, dear viewers, to an enchanting journey through the shadowy corners of Washington State, where the past intertwines with the present in the most spine-chilling ways. As we gather in this digital realm, I invite you to prepare for a night of hair-raising tales and bone-chilling encounters. Washington, known for its lush evergreen forests and majestic mountain ranges, holds a darker secret beneath its serene surface. A tapestry of haunted locations that have become the stuff of legends and nightmares alike. Imagine the mist rolling in from the Puget Sound, cloaking the historic towns in an ethereal fog, while whispers of the past echo through the trees. From the remnants of old military forts to the eerie silence of abandoned asylums, each haunted site has its own story to tell, waiting for the brave souls willing to listen. These tales are not merely stories. They are woven into the very fabric of the land, echoing the lives of those who once roamed these grounds, often with tragic endings that refuse to be forgotten. As we delve into the most haunted places in Washington State, you'll discover that each location is steeped in history, filled with the remnants of unspeakable events and the lingering spirits of those who met untimely fates. From the chilling cries of lost souls to the inexplicable sightings of shadowy figures, these experiences have drawn countless paranormal enthusiasts and curious tourists alike, all hoping to catch a glimpse of the other side. But beware, dear friends, for the allure of these haunted sites can be intoxicating. Each visit may leave you questioning what lies beyond the veil of reality, as the line between the living and the dead blurs. Whether it's the eerie laughter echoing through an empty hallway or the sudden chill that runs down your spine when you least expect it, the experiences shared by those who dare to explore these places are nothing short of extraordinary. So, as we prepare to embark on this thrilling adventure together, let's embrace the unknown and open our hearts to the mysteries that await. There's a reason why Washington State is revered for its haunted reputation, and I promise you, the stories we uncover will linger in your mind long after the credits roll. Let's turn off the lights, gather close, and dive into the haunting beauty of Washington's most infamous locations. A haunted military relic perched on the rugged coastline of Washington State, Fort Worden stands as a solemn reminder of the country's military past. Originally constructed in the early 20th century as a coastal defense installation, this sprawling complex once housed soldiers tasked with protecting the entrance to Puget Sound. Today, Fort Worden has been repurposed into a public park and arts college, but despite its transformation, the echoes of its past refuse to fade. Visitors and residents alike report an unsettling presence lingering within its crumbling buildings, whispering secrets of long-forgotten tragedies and restless spirits unwilling to move on. One of the most infamous haunted spots within Fort Worden is the Bell Tower, a towering structure that once served as a watch post for enemy ships. Now, visitors claim to hear the faint strains of an old music box playing eerie melodies, even though no such device has been found in the area. Some have even reported seeing the shadowy figure of a woman in a military uniform peering out from the tower's windows before vanishing into thin air. Locals believe she is the spirit of a former nurse who lost her life during a tragic accident at the fort, her soul forever bound to the place where she once served. Another chilling location is the former hospital building, where many wounded soldiers were treated throughout the years. Though long abandoned, strange occurrences persist. Doors slammed shut without explanation, cold spots appear in otherwise warm rooms, and disembodied footsteps echo through the empty hallways. According to legend, a ghostly nurse still roams the corridors, tending to unseen patients with a quiet determination. Some visitors claim to feel an overwhelming sense of grief and sorrow when entering the hospital, as if the building itself mourns the countless lives lost within its walls. The Fort Worden's Theater is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Once a place of entertainment for soldiers stationed at the fort, the theater is now part of a local arts program. However, performers and staff have reported strange occurrences: lights flickering without explanation, sudden drops in temperature, and the sensation of being watched by an unseen presence. Some claim to have seen a shadowy figure standing in the balcony, motionless yet eerily aware of their surroundings. Others have heard faint whispers and the sound of an old projector running, even when no one is present. Perhaps the most unsettling legend surrounding Fort Worden is that of the Red Room. This former dormitory was once home to soldiers who lived and trained within the fort's walls. Over the years, numerous visitors have reported hearing muffled voices and the sound of heavy footsteps pacing just outside their doors. Some have even claimed to see the apparition of a soldier wandering the halls late at night, his face obscured in shadow. Theories abound about his identity. Some believe he was a soldier who took his own life within the building, while others speculate that he is simply a lost soul, trapped between the world of the living and the dead. Whether these stories are rooted in fact or mere legend, one thing remains certain: Fort Wardens is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. The spirits of those who once walked its grounds seem to linger, their presence felt in the creak of old floorboards, the whisper of the wind through empty corridors, and the unshakable feeling that something, or someone, is watching. Eastern State Penitentiary. The haunted remains of a brutal prison deep within the heart of Washington State lies the decaying ruins of Eastern State Penitentiary. A once formidable prison that has become infamous for its brutal history and the lingering presence of tormented souls. Originally constructed in the early 1900s, the prison was designed to house some of the most dangerous criminals in the region, operating under a strict regimen of isolation and punishment. The facility was notorious for its harsh conditions, where prisoners were kept in near total darkness, subjected to psychological torment, and often driven to madness. It is said that the very walls of the prison absorbed the anguish of those who suffered within them, and even decades after its closure, the echoes of their torment remain. One of the most chilling areas of the prison is Cell Block 12, a long-abandoned wing where some of the most hardened criminals were once confined. Visitors who dare to explore the crumbling structure often report hearing disembodied voices whispering in the darkness, pleading for release or recounting the horrors they endured. Some claim to see shadowy figures pacing the narrow corridors, their forms vanishing the moment they are approached. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplainable sounds on their equipment: low moans, distant screams, and the unmistakable clanking of iron chains, despite the absence of any physical source. The prison's solitary confinement cells are particularly notorious for their eerie atmosphere. Designed to break prisoners mentally, these tiny, windowless rooms were meant to induce madness through isolation. Many who entered never emerged the same, and some never left at all. Today, those who step inside these cells often describe an overwhelming sense of dread, as if an unseen presence is watching them from the shadows. Some have even claimed to feel the sensation of invisible hands gripping their shoulders, or the cold breath of an unseen entity whispering directly into their ear. Perhaps the most infamous story associated with Eastern State Penitentiary is that of the Whispering Man. According to legend, a former inmate named Thomas Grady was sentenced to death for a crime he swore he did not commit. On the night before his execution, he allegedly begged for mercy, claiming that his innocence would haunt the prison long after his death. The following morning, guards found him dead in his cell, though no signs of struggle or foul play were evident. Since then, visitors have reported hearing a man's voice calling out from the depths of the prison, repeating the same desperate plea: "I didn't do it! I didn't do it!" The prison's execution chamber, long since sealed off, is another site of reported paranormal activity. The room, where numerous condemned prisoners met their fate, is said to be filled with an oppressive energy that makes even the bravest explorers uneasy. Some have claimed to hear the sound of a noose tightening, followed by a sudden drop in temperature. Others have captured what appears to be orbs of light or shadowy figures appearing in photographs taken within the chamber, despite the absence of any visible subjects. Despite its dark history, Eastern State Penitentiary remains a popular destination for paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers alike. The prison's decaying walls, rusted bars, and silent corridors serve as a grim reminder of the suffering that once took place within its confines. Whether the spirits of the past truly linger or whether the fear of what happened here lingers in the minds of those who visit, one thing is certain: Eastern State Penitentiary is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten, and where the echoes of suffering still haunt the air. Old Kelso Depot, the ghost train station tucked away in the quiet town of Kelso, Washington. The old Kelso Depot stands as a relic of a bygone era, its weathered wooden beams and rusted tracks whispering of long forgotten journeys. Once a bustling hub of railway activity. Another eerie phenomenon reported at the old Kelso Depot is the sound of phantom trains rumbling through the station late at night. Witnesses describe hearing the unmistakable clatter of wheels on steel tracks, followed by the distant screech of brakes, even though no trains have operated on the line in decades. Some believe these spectral trains are echoes of the past, reliving moments of history that refuse to be forgotten. Others suggest that the sounds are the work of restless spirits, attempting to communicate with the living through the only means they know, the rhythmic pulse of the railway that once defined their existence. Whether the hauntings at the old Kelso depot stem from the lingering grief of a lost child, the devotion of a departed station master, or the echoes of a forgotten era, one thing is certain. The depot remains a place where the past refuses to fade. Those who dare to visit often leave with an unsettling feeling, as if they have stepped into a moment frozen in time, where the living and the dead share the same space. The haunting of the forgotten nun nestled deep within the dense forests of Washington State, St. Anne's Chapel stands as a silent testament to a forgotten past. Once a place of worship and solace, the chapel now lies in eerie abandonment, its weathered stone walls and broken stained glass windows whispering of tragedies long buried. According to local legend, the chapel was built in the early 1900s by a small religious order of nuns who dedicated their lives to prayer and service. However, not all of them found peace in death, and one in particular is said to linger within the chapel's decaying halls, a ghostly figure known as the Nun of St. Anne's. The most chilling account of paranormal activity at St. Anne's Chapel involves the bell tower, which once rang to call the faithful to worship. Today, the bell remains silent, yet visitors have reported hearing its toll echoing through the forest late at night, despite the absence of any physical means to ring it. Some claim to have seen a shadowy figure ascending the spiral staircase of the tower, vanishing the moment they attempt to follow. Others have described a sudden, unshakable sense of dread upon entering the chapel, as if an unseen presence watches their every move. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the apparition of the nun herself. Witnesses describe seeing a pale, translucent figure dressed in a tattered black habit, standing near the altar or kneeling in one of the pews in silent prayer. She is said to vanish the moment she is acknowledged, leaving behind an icy chill that lingers long after she disappears. Some claim she is the spirit of a nun who died under mysterious circumstances. Rumors speak of a forbidden love affair that ended in tragedy, while others believe she was wrongfully accused of a crime and took her own life within the chapel's walls. The chapel's history is steeped in sorrow and mystery. It is said that during the early 1930s, one of the nuns vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a single candle burning at the altar. The sisters searched high and low but found no sign of her, and her disappearance was never solved. Some believe her spirit remains trapped within the chapel, unable to move on until her fate is uncovered. Others claim that she is merely one of many souls who once called the chapel home, their lingering presences drawn to the sacred ground where they once devoted their lives. One particularly unsettling story comes from a group of hikers who stumbled upon the chapel one foggy evening. As they explored the crumbling interior, they noticed that the candles on the altar were flickering, though there was no breeze to explain the movement. Suddenly, a cold gust of air swept through the room, extinguishing all the candles at once. In the darkness, they heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching, followed by the unmistakable whisper of a woman's voice calling out in Latin. Terrified, they fled the chapel and did not dare return. Despite its eerie reputation, St. Anne's Chapel continues to attract paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious nun or unravel the secrets hidden within its walls. Some claim that the chapel is cursed, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. Others believe that the nun's spirit is not malevolent but rather a guardian of the chapel, ensuring that its history is never forgotten. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: those who dare to enter St. Anne's Chapel should be prepared for an experience unlike any other. Twin Peaks Diner, the haunting of the small-town eatery nestled in the heart of Washington State's misty countryside, the Twin Peaks Diner has long been a staple of small-town life. With its cozy booths, homemade pies, and the familiar clang of the bell above the door, it has served as a gathering place for locals and travelers alike. But beneath its quaint exterior lies a history steeped in mystery, and those who have worked or dined within its walls often speak in hushed tones about the unexplained occurrences that take place after closing time. The first and most persistent haunting at the diner is that of a phantom waitress. Employees have reported seeing a young woman in an old-fashioned blue uniform walking through the dining area, only to vanish the moment she is approached. Some claim she helps restock the condiments or wipe down tables, even when no one is scheduled to work that shift. One waitress, who worked the late shift for several months, described a chilling encounter. While wiping down the counter one night, she heard the sound of footsteps behind her, only to turn and find no one there. Moments later, she felt a cold hand gently brush against her shoulder, and when she spun around, she saw the ghostly figure of the waitress standing near the kitchen door, staring at her with hollow eyes before fading into the shadows. Another eerie phenomenon involves the diner's mysterious customer. Patrons have reported seeing an elderly man seated in the farthest booth, always alone, always motionless. He never orders anything, yet he sits there for hours, staring blankly at the wall. Some have attempted to speak to him, only to receive no response. When they return the next day, employees claim no record of such a man ever being present. According to local legend, this figure is the spirit of a man who once frequented the diner in life but met a tragic end. Some say he was the diner's original owner, while others believe he was a traveler who vanished under mysterious circumstances decades ago. The kitchen, however, is where the most unsettling activity is said to occur. Chefs and prep cooks have reported hearing the sound of pots clanging and drawers opening when no one is near them. One particularly bizarre incident occurred when a cook claimed to hear a voice calling out from the pantry asking, "Where did I put the onions?" Thinking it was a coworker playing a prank, he responded, only to be met with silence. When he opened the pantry door, he found the onions neatly stacked on the bottom shelf, though he was certain they had been stored elsewhere earlier that day. Perhaps the most chilling account comes from a group of paranormal investigators who visited the diner late one night. They set up cameras and audio equipment throughout the building, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural activity. As the night progressed, they recorded a series of inexplicable sounds: dishes clinking in the kitchen despite no one being near them, the soft murmur of voices in an empty dining area, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing back and forth behind the counter. Then, just as they were preparing to leave, the bell above the diner's door chimed, a sound that should have been impossible, as the door was locked and no one had entered or exited. Some believe that the spirits lingering in the diner are simply remnants of those who once found comfort within its walls, unwilling to leave the place that brought them solace in life. Others suggest that something darker lurks within the building, tied to the diner's past in ways that have yet to be uncovered. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: those who dine at Twin Peaks Diner may find themselves sharing their meal with more than just fellow customers. The haunted insane asylum tucked away on the outskirts of Lakewood, Washington, Fort Steilacoom has a long and disturbing history that has left an indelible mark on those who dare to explore its grounds. Originally established in the mid-1800s as a military outpost, the fort eventually transformed into the Western Washington State Hospital for the Insane in the late 1800s. For decades, the facility housed the mentally ill under conditions that were often inhumane, with patients subjected to experimental treatments, forced isolation, and brutal restraints. Many of the patients who passed away within its walls were buried in unmarked graves on the property, and according to local legend, their spirits never truly left. One of the most frequently reported paranormal experiences at Fort Steilacoom occurs in the basement of one of the old hospital buildings. Visitors and paranormal investigators claim to hear the sound of footsteps pacing in the darkness, even when no one else is present. Some have reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners, only to vanish when approached. Others describe an overwhelming sense of dread and despair, as if the very air is thick with the suffering of those who once lived, and died, within the asylum's walls. The most chilling account comes from a group of paranormal investigators who set up cameras and audio equipment in the basement one stormy night. As they reviewed the footage later, they noticed a strange anomaly: an apparition of a woman in a tattered hospital gown standing in the hallway. Another well-known haunting at Fort Steilacoom involves the ghost of a former nurse who is said to still roam the halls of the old hospital. Witnesses describe seeing a woman in a vintage nurse's uniform walking through the building, only to vanish when approached. Some claim to hear her voice whispering softly, as if trying to comfort unseen patients. Others have reported feeling an icy breeze sweep through the halls, even on the warmest of nights, accompanied by the faint scent of antiseptic and decay. The most harrowing legend surrounding Fort Steilacoom is that of a patient who was allegedly subjected to a series of brutal experiments in the name of science. According to local lore, this patient was locked away in a small, windowless room for years, where he was repeatedly subjected to electroshock therapy and other painful procedures. Some say that his screams can still be heard echoing through the halls late at night, a tragic reminder of the suffering endured within the asylum's walls. Others claim to have seen his ghost, a gaunt, shadowy figure pacing back and forth in the hallway outside the room where he was once imprisoned. Even after the hospital was officially closed and much of the property was repurposed, strange occurrences continued to plague Fort Steilacoom. Employees at the nearby community college, which now occupies part of the grounds, have reported seeing apparitions in the windows of the old buildings late at night. Some claim to hear the sound of children laughing in the empty courtyards, though no children are ever present. Others describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow them wherever they go. Despite the passage of time, the ghosts of Fort Steilacoom refuse to be forgotten. Whether they are the lingering spirits of the patients who suffered within its walls or the echoes of a dark past that refuses to fade, one thing is certain: Fort Steilacoom remains one of Washington State's most haunted and unsettling locations. Port Townsend Ghost Walk, the haunted streets of a Victorian town tucked along the northeastern coast of Washington State. The town of Port Townsend exudes an old-world charm with its well-preserved Victorian architecture and cobblestone streets. However, beneath its picturesque facade lies a history steeped in mystery, tragedy, and the unshakable presence of the supernatural. Known as one of the most haunted towns in the Pacific Northwest, Port Townsend has become a hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts, drawing visitors from around the world who seek to uncover the secrets hidden within its historic buildings and winding alleyways. One of the town's most infamous haunted locations is the Murphy Building, a grand Victorian structure that once served as a bustling hotel in the late 1800s. Today, the building stands abandoned, its windows shattered and its halls eerily silent. Local legends speak of a tragic fire that once engulfed the hotel, claiming the lives of several guests and trapping their spirits within the walls. Visitors have reported strange occurrences within the building: cold spots that appear without warning, the sound of footsteps echoing through empty hallways, and the sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. Some even claim to have seen the ghostly figures of a couple walking hand in hand through the lobby, only to vanish into thin air. Another chilling location is the former Rose Theater, an opulent performance hall that once hosted grand productions in the early 20th century. Though the theater has long since fallen into disrepair, reports of paranormal activity persist. Staff and visitors have described hearing the faint strains of music drifting from the stage, even though no instruments are present. Others claim to see a shadowy figure standing in the balcony, watching performances that ended decades ago. The most unsettling account comes from a group of paranormal investigators who captured what appeared to be a glowing figure standing on the stage, dressed in old-fashioned theatrical attire. The figure remained motionless for several seconds before fading away, leaving behind only the sound of applause that echoed through the empty hall. Port Townsend's haunted history extends beyond its buildings and into the very streets themselves. The town's historic cemetery, where many of its earliest settlers are buried, is said to be a place where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. Visitors have reported seeing orbs of light floating between the gravestones, as well as the faint outlines of figures standing among the tombstones late at night. Some have even claimed to hear the sound of children laughing in the distance, only to find no one present when they investigate. One of the town's most enduring ghost stories revolves around the legend of the lighthouse keeper's wife. According to local lore, a woman once lived in the town's historic lighthouse with her husband, a solitary man who spent his days tending to the beacon that guided ships safely into the harbor. One stormy night, the woman was said to have vanished without a trace, leaving behind only her wedding dress draped over a chair. Some believe she was lost to the sea, while others claim she still wanders the cliffs near the lighthouse, searching for her missing husband. Visitors who have explored the area late at night report hearing the sound of footsteps behind them, only to turn and find no one there. Others describe the sensation of a cold hand brushing against their shoulder before vanishing into the darkness. The town's haunted reputation has led to the creation of the annual Port Townsend Ghost Walk, a guided tour that takes visitors through the most infamous haunted locations in the area. Participants are led through the town's shadowy streets, where they hear chilling tales of tragic deaths, unexplained disappearances, and restless spirits who refuse to move on. Along the way, guides recount the stories of those who once lived in the town, many of whom are said to still haunt the very places they once called home. Despite its eerie reputation, Port Townsend remains a beloved destination for history buffs and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Its well-preserved architecture, rich history, and the lingering presence of the past make it a place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. Whether the spirits of the town truly exist or whether the fear of what happened there lingers in the minds of those who visit, one thing is certain: Port Townsend is a town where the past refuses to be forgotten. The Stanley Hotel, the inspiration for The Shining and its haunted legacy nestled in the heart of Estes Park, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel has long been shrouded in an aura of mystery and supernatural activity. Originally built in 1909 by F.O. Stanley, the co-inventor of the Stanley steamer automobile, the hotel was designed to provide a luxurious retreat for the wealthy elite. However, beneath its elegant exterior and grand ballrooms lies a history steeped in tragedy, making it one of the most haunted hotels in the United States, and the real-life inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining. According to legend, the hotel's haunted reputation began with the spirit of Mrs. Stanley herself, Flora Stanley. A talented pianist, she was known to practice in the grand ballroom late at night, filling the halls with the soft melody of her music. After her death, guests and staff alike have reported hearing the sound of a piano playing in the middle of the night, even when no one is present. Some claim to see her ghostly figure seated at the piano, her fingers gliding effortlessly over the keys, only to vanish when approached. One of the most frequently reported hauntings occurs in room 217, the very room that inspired Stephen King's infamous Overlook Hotel in The Shining. In 1911, a guest named Elizabeth Wilson was staying in room 217 when a faulty gas line caused an explosion that set the room ablaze. Though she survived the ordeal, she was severely burned and later died from her injuries. Ever since, guests have reported strange occurrences in the room: flickering lights, disembodied voices whispering their names, and the sensation of an unseen presence watching them from the shadows. Some even claim that the scent of smoke lingers in the air, though no fire has ever been reported in the room since the original incident. Another well-known ghost is that of a former bellhop named Paul. He is said to still roam the hotel, assisting guests with their luggage despite having passed away decades ago. Staff members have reported seeing a young man in old-fashioned bellhop attire walking through the halls, only to vanish when approached. Some guests have even claimed that their luggage mysteriously appears in their rooms without anyone having delivered it, leading many to believe that Paul is still performing his duties in the afterlife. The hotel's elevator is another source of paranormal activity. Unlike modern elevators, the Stanley's original lift operates with a hand-cranked mechanism, requiring an operator to manually control its movement. However, guests have reported instances where the elevator moves on its own, stopping at random floors without explanation. Some have even claimed to see the doors open to reveal an empty shaft, only for the elevator car to appear moments later, as if nothing had happened. The hotel's ballroom, once a place of grand social gatherings, is also said to be haunted by the spirits of those who once danced there. Visitors have described hearing the faint strains of a waltz playing in the empty room, accompanied by the sound of footsteps echoing across the wooden floor. Some have even claimed to see shadowy figures waltzing in the dim light, only to disappear when approached. Perhaps the most chilling account comes from Stephen King himself. In 1974, King and his wife stayed in room 217, where he reportedly had a dream about his young son being chased through the hotel's corridors by a fire-breathing topiary hedge animal. This dream, combined with the eerie atmosphere of the hotel, inspired him to write The Shining. King later admitted that he found the Stanley Hotel to be one of the most unsettling places he had ever visited, further cementing its reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity. Despite its haunted legacy, the Stanley Hotel remains a popular destination for both history enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. The hotel even offers ghost tours, where guests can explore its most haunted locations and hear first-hand accounts of the strange occurrences that have taken place over the years. Whether the spirits of the past truly linger or whether the hotel's eerie atmosphere simply fuels the imagination, one thing is certain: the Stanley Hotel is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. And so, dear friends, we reach the end of our journey through the haunted corners of Washington State, a land where history and horror intertwine, where the past refuses to be buried, and where the echoes of lost souls still linger in the silence. From the crumbling walls of Fort Wardens to the phantom laughter at the Roxy Theater, each of these locations holds a story that chills the bones and stirs the imagination. Whether you believe in the supernatural or simply enjoy a good ghost tale, one thing is undeniable: these places are alive with mystery, and their secrets are far from being fully uncovered. As we step away from the flickering candlelight of St. Anne's Chapel, the shadowy corridors of Fort Steilacoom, and the phantom footsteps echoing through the Island House Hotel, take a moment to reflect on what you've heard. These aren't just old buildings or forgotten roads. They are the remnants of lives once lived, tragedies once endured, and spirits who may never find peace. Whether they are the restless dead or mere figments of our collective fears, they have left their mark on this world, etching their presence into the very fabric of Washington's landscape. But our journey doesn't have to end here. The world of the supernatural is vast, and there are countless more haunted places waiting to be explored. If you've ever felt the chill of an unseen presence, heard a whisper in the dark, or stood in a place where the air itself seemed to hum with something beyond the veil of reality, we want to hear from you. Share your own eerie encounters in the comments below. Perhaps your story will be the next one we uncover. Until then, remember, whether you walk the misty streets of Port Townsend, dine at the Twin Peaks Diner, or dare to explore the ruins of Eastern State Penitentiary, you may not be alone. The past is always watching. The spirits are always listening. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of Washington State, the ghosts are still waiting. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the haunted heart of the Pacific Northwest. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another spine-chilling story. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and just maybe, sleep with the lights on. Crescent moon ghosts fade to black.